Good afternoon. Good afternoon. And welcome to the Core Hour, sensible, sustainable solutions for our society and you. We are here at WBOK, 12:30 a.m. The call-in number is 504-260-WBOK. Again, that's 504-260-9265. As you know, we love to hear from our listeners, and so please call in as we sit here and have a little talk with Gretchen Zalkind.
Hi, Tillman.
Did I say it right?
You said it perfectly.
Thank you very much for being here. And Gretchen is here with the NOLA Timebank. Is that right?
That's it, the Timebank.
Cool. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. As everyone knows, we like to start with our Ma'at meditation. And so, this one is one I'm sure is going to get me in trouble, but because it's the 21st week of the year, and this is the 21st law of Ma'at, we're going to go with it. This week's meditation, the 21st law of Ma'at, is, I have not seduced anyone's wife. That is your negative confession for the week. And so as I started thinking about this one, I'm a Christian. I talk about that sometimes on the show. And if you are a Christian, this meditation should remind you of a couple of the 10 commandments. The first one is the 7th commandment, which is thou shalt not commit adultery. And the 10th commandment says thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, wife, or possessions. Now, I believe this is relevant. And I believe that culturally and spiritually, this sort of, whether it's sexual or not, that, adultery and acts of adultery plague our community. And by that, I mean that, single and married men mixing and mingling with folks' spouses happens on the job. It happens in television way too often and in the media, and people are just way too involved with this conversation, and they think it's fun. And we even see it in our politics. I've been unfortunate enough to hear about and experience what happens at the end of, a indiscretion gone bad. It was already bad in the first place, and then it just gets worse because, things tend to escalate and so forth. And we don't really talk about this a lot, especially in the workplace and things like that. I remember when I was in the military, adultery is against the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And so if you are caught in an act of adultery and you're on active duty, you can actually you can receive non-judicial or judicial punishment. According to the Uniform Code of Military Justice, is a big deal. And so, I just want to say, because I know if I talk about this too long, we're probably going to have a Sandman come out of the back door and pull me out of here. So I won't stick on this too long. But, I've talked to many men and women and children, and men and women who have been the predator, the prey, and the victim, or the innocent bystanders even. And I can say without a doubt that, it's just not sustainable. And, and what I'm talking about specifically in adultery, again, is the sexual or lustful behavior between a married person and anyone other than that person's spouse. And I won't elaborate on this one too much because I think, this is one that should drive home for everyone. And And we want to talk about some positive stuff that's happening with the NOLA Timebank. And we want to talk about some other things that are happening in the community. I want to give a shout out to Oliver Thomas and Charmel Galden on their show today. They had a gentleman, a representative from Fix My Streets, New Orleans, and they were talking about, how this group of people is trying to help the city and citizens visualize a city with sustainable streets. Seems like, it makes sense to me. Right?
A lot to ask.
And but it's just interesting is, a lot of people these days just get stuck in this rut, and they complain and they complain and they complain, and they forget that, there are some solutions out there.
Right.
There are some solutions out there. And a lot of this can happen from the grassroots effort, from us organizing and getting together and just, bringing the fight to city council, ourselves. And also, Ashland Washington's in the office, y'all. He usually is in the office, in the building, in the sound room, on the airways. Ashland, again, handling our camera work as well as being on the microphone. Glad to have him here. Thank you for being here.
No problem.
And I got a couple of more shots to give out, y'all, because I sit here and I listen to WBOK. I've been listening a lot more because of our involvement on WBOK, and I'm glad I have been listening in because, the conversation all day long, I mean, literally, I think it was like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning this morning, I tuned in, and somebody had a show. And I was like, wow, okay, somebody else is up. And they're actually talking about relevant stuff. And it was, had gospel music and talking about, relevant stuff in our community. And Isaac from the WBOK family today had some folks from Tulane University talking about youth development. Literally as we speak at Tulane University at the LBC Student Center, they are having a conversation around youth development and how to increase youth opportunities. And the Micah Project was interviewed today, and they're talking about how to improve our criminal justice system, which I personally believe needs changing. And then even Jean Nathan, called in, and she mentioned today a couple of people that really touched me in my life. They were mentors, Pam DeShill and Reverend Truehill, Reverend John Raphael from New Hope Church, who passed, and Dr. Peter Dangerfield, who was a soldier and actually one of the founders of Total Community Action, which just celebrated its 50th anniversary of the Head Start program. And so, those were true soldiers back in the day, fighting social inequities, and they all died of health problems, which, I personally believe are the result of a stressful life that they chose to live in order to help make our society better. Unfortunately, it's a tough fight out there.
Yeah.
And it's fewer and fewer people out there who are really fighting to help make our community great. And people spend a lot of time right now talking about money because, they believe that the scarcity exists and there's not enough abundance for everybody. I personally don't believe that that's true. And that's why I'm really glad to sit here and talk to Gretchen because you don't always, what I'm finding through just understanding more about these time banks is we, through our social capital, through our innate ability and desire to help one another and be helped by one another, can accomplish a lot without the dollar bills, y'all, as they said back in the day.
You're exactly right, Tillman.
And so tell us a little bit about time banks in general, and then bring it home to the NOLA Timebank if you can.
Okay, I'm happy to. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So the time bank movement it's kind of a new term for a very, very old concept that you can work with the people in your community. When one person needs the help, the community gets together, helps that one person, and then when someone else needs help, the person that received help is able to turn and give help. And like I said, it's not a new concept at all, but the term time bank is something that's come about in the last maybe 20 years. But since we have computer databases now, it used to be you might have a club and you typed up a sheet and each person put on the sheet, well, I'm handy with carpentry, or I can sew, or I can cook. And maybe everybody in the group had this sheet that listed people's talents.
Now, is that like the black book that the Godfather had, where he wrote down all the different things people owed him? And
I'd like to think of it as more of a kind of a positive thing, where we list our assets and our talents and positive things we want to contribute to our community.
Okay, so there's not like a secret society of folks sitting there with all the books and numbers saying, this person's been receiving, but they ain't been given.
That is a really interesting thing, Tillman, that you bring that up, because we do have a database, and we can look and see every member of the time bank, how much they've given and how much they've received. And people overwhelmingly give more.
Wow.
We need more people to join, because you have to have both. If everyone's given and no one's receiving.
Now, is Cousin Pookie a part of the time bank? Because Cousin Pookie never gives anything back. I mean, we've been giving Cousin Pookie money, time, been helping him with his homework, and he never want to give anything back. So.
Well, let me talk to Cousin Pookie, because I think I can help find some way for Cousin Pookie to give back.
All right, let me give you his number.
Okay, that will work.
Talk to him. But this is just an awesome concept, and one of the reasons I'm really excited to have you on the show is because I've been to a few of the functions, and I'm learning more and more about how the time bank works, because it was kind of confusing for me initially. There's a lot to learn, specifically about like these tax laws, and I was trying to understand, isn't this just bartering? Why can't we just call it bartering? And you tell me there is a difference.
Yeah, we stay away from the B word.
The B word. Okay.
Because bartering is usually at time bank we have one rule, and that's 1 hour equals 1 hour. And bartering, that's not necessarily true. You might have somebody who has expensive skills that they went to school, they're an attorney or a doctor, and they're like, my time is worth, 4 of your hours or 10 of your hours or whatever. Yep. So a lot of times in a bartering group, if your skill is...
And that starts to resemble money.
Exactly.
It starts to kind of... When you start quantifying, my time, because I spent X amount of years in college and this, that, and the other, and I got all this experience. My time is worth more than yours now. Yeah, so that starts to, create some inequities.
Yes.
Exactly. And we all have 24 hours in a day. I mean,
correct.
Nobody has some extra hours, although we wish we had them.
Of course.
We all have the same 24 hours, and to say, my hour is worth more than yours, or yours is worth more than mine,
But isn't that the way our society's built?
Well, that's why we're trying to build something different here.
Something different. Something different. You know what happens when people start changing stuff around,
Yeah, it's actually a really, really nice thing, because there are some people in our society that think they have nothing to give. They're like, my time's not worth anything. The economy as we know it is not really appreciating that person. And man, if you taught someone how to tie your shoes, if you've potty trained someone, you've contributed a lot. Imagine if none of us got potty trained.
You know how many bathrooms I saved from potty training my kids?
Thank you. No, I mean that's an example
of a good example.
Something that our society would not function if people hadn't done that. And how much does our society value that?
Yes.
Not very much. In the time bank, that's worth a lot.
I like that. I like that. And so, like I said, you refer to it, instead of bartering, you refer to it as mutual aid, a mutual aid network, instead of a bartering system, which I really can appreciate. And, that's right? A mutual aid network?
Because we're all helping one another. It's based on reciprocity. It's like my hour is worth your hour. I give an hour. I take an hour. So we try to recognize everybody's talents and what everybody can give.
And if you do have to, or you're in a situation, if you're joining because you're in a situation where you do need to receive more help than you can currently offer, and that's okay.
It's totally okay. Sometimes you join and you're just in a situation where you need help from your neighbors, and we're going to say, we're going to help you. That said, it's a volunteer network. So sometimes if you join and say, I need a ride to the airport today, people need to be able to plan.
Right.
So it's not an emergency network. It is a network to join and be part of and be prepared to give and receive. But we don't, it's not like someone's going to say, hey, you're 10 hours negative. No, that's great. You allowed other people to help you for 10 hours, and they got to feel good about helping you, and we know down the road you're going to want to help someone else.
What do you think about this, Ashley? I mean, is this something that young people can get involved with, you think? I mean...
Yeah, definitely. I would, just listening, and I definitely agree with reciprocity. That's a law of the universe. But I think so because, a lot of young people are especially looking for jobs. And so when you offer something like this where you can say, okay, I'll bank 12 hours of my time in return for 12 hours of some other service, then you have an exchange that is, in my opinion, worth more than money because depending on what the services are, you both can accomplish a lot more by helping one another. My only question is for young entrepreneurs and really business owners is how do businesses fall in line to the time bank? Would a business be able to say, okay, we can dedicate 3 of our guys for 3 hours, 1 hour apiece? Or just, what are the logistics on how businesses can get involved?
Well, the Time Bank is a nonprofit group. Okay. We operate as a project of the Neighborhood Partnership Network, which is a great organization all over town. So we function as a nonprofit. That said, we want to support everybody in our community. People who are entrepreneurs, often you're starting out and you don't have someone to build your website. Right. And so you can tap into the network to get some of those services to help you grow your business, start your business. There are people that have given different kinds of consultations. We have a lot of entrepreneurs in the Time Bank that use the Time Bank to fill in some of those skills that they don't have. And frankly, when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have a lot of money to hire people to do it.
And it really seems to me that this organization is really a community in itself, in a self-sustaining community at that, because you have an organization that is allowed to flourish because you have a continuous stream of people wanting to volunteer, and they're doing so in hopes to receive help as well. But by giving themselves, they can also extend themselves and make connections and network and things like that. And again, that's why I said I believe it's a lot more valuable than money because those connections can last lifetimes.
Well, thank you. No, it's true. I really appreciate that.
Sure, and I appreciate what you're doing. I mean, because like I said, oftentimes, and especially in this city, because it's small. Like we like to talk about the Big Easy, but the Big Easy is, it's really, the saucer. So it can seem tiny at times, and I really believe like something like this.
We are literally a bowl.
Yeah, literally. Yeah,
literally.
Yeah.
We're gonna swim together.
Exactly.
We almost did.
Oh man.
A lot of people forget. It's been 10 years, but it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things.
Well, it's really interesting because time banks do provide a network. Sometimes people don't reach across different groups,
Sure.
and the Time Bank is a nice vehicle to try to knit together people from all across the city. And there have been situations where the Time Bank, it was in New Zealand, in Queensland, they had some very bad earthquakes.
Wow.
And because of the Time Bank, the Red Cross was able to find out, okay, well, these are the people with pickup trucks,
Oh, wow.
and these are the people that,
Yeah.
have certain skills that we need right now.
I never even thought about that.
Neither me.
I know that you are involved with or partnered with the local evacueer program.
Exactly.
And, we got about 5 minutes before our break, but, I'd like to hear a little bit about that partnership. Is that, can you?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. So one of the partner groups to the Time Bank is the Evacueers. And the Evacueers, it's a volunteer organization. It stands for Evacuation Volunteers. So if there's a situation where there's a mandatory evacuation, where the mayor says everyone has to get out, there's probably 40,000 people in New Orleans that do not have a reliable way out of the city.
Right.
That's a lot of people.
Yes, it is.
I think I know 20,000.
Yeah, no, and there's no such thing as hunker down when the mayor says we
Right.
got to get out of here.
Right.
So the Evacueers work every season to train 500 citizen volunteers to understand what the system is. You've probably seen the sculptures around town. It looks like somebody like catching beads, or it's a big stick figure with its hand up. But these 17 spots are evacu spots,
Wow.
and that's where there's going to be buses to take people to a central loading place, and people can bring their pets, and there's a lot of we want volunteers to be there if such a thing happens,
Right.
people who understand the system, so that when you get to that evacu spot, there's someone that says, don't worry, this is how it works. Yes,
Right.
you can bring your pet. Yes, your family group's staying together. And so every year we have to train those 500 people. And when I say we, it's not just the Time Bank. It's a bunch of organizations around town that train people.
Yeah.
So we hope it never happens,
Yeah.
but we
And
want to be ready.
That's why I have to say again that this is really something so invaluable.
Really special.
Yeah, because again, with the city on this type of scale, you can potentially have something to where everyone is involved in the Time Bank, because I don't see a reason why no one would want to be.
Right.
It's reciprocity. Everybody's getting something great out of it, and so with the city being so small, I do believe that you can have a situation to where you have partnerships of all kinds, especially the kind of like what you just mentioned.
Excellent. Well, your mouth to God's ear.
And I'll tell you something else. I used to be a really, really, really active Red Cross volunteer, and so I remember when the Evacueers first kind of started down here. And I said to myself, why don't we just get everybody to sign up for the Red Cross and, do it that way? Well, now, many years later, what I understand that I didn't understand then is the relationship between the local evacueers, right? Because they're all local.
Yeah, it's citizens.
They're all
your
local
neighbors.
folks. It's your neighbors. And in a situation where you're having to abandon your neighborhood, abandon your home, you have your pet, you may be an older person, you may have a disability. When somebody's coming in from Wisconsin to volunteer with the Red Cross, those accents and everything sometimes just kind of throw you off a little bit. Like, wait, who are you, first of all? I mean, I see the red vest, but you could have bought that at Lowe's or Home Depot and put a little sticker on the back, But when you see a face of someone who you've seen many times before,
right,
and they have that local brand that you've been seeing, many, many times on the internet, on the television, local access channel.
Right.
You keep hearing about it on the airwaves, evacueer. It really does give you some comfort in knowing that that person who's showing up at your door to help you is a local person.
Yeah, it's a super stressful situation. So the more that it's like somebody from down the street, so much better. So much better.
And, same thing with bartering. I mean, one question I asked myself was, when was the last time somebody came over to my house to borrow a stick of butter or sugar, and when was the last time I went next door to borrow something?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really see people doing that anymore.
No. Well, that's
people would rather get in the car, even if it's in the middle of a party.
Right.
And they live in New Orleans East, where there's not enough places to really not enough anything, but not enough grocery stores. They would rather leave the party, leave the house, drive all the way to
Gentilly
wherever,
Yeah.
and get the ice or whatever they need instead of just going right next door and asking.
Right.
And it seems to me that is one of the things that perpetuates this separatism,
the disconnect,
and the disconnect that we're experiencing in our communities,
in society,
and especially, you live in a neighborhood where it's already changing, it's gentrifying or whatever it is. So you got new people coming in, and there's just a disconnect. People don't know who lives next door anymore in certain neighborhoods. And something like this, something like Evacuteer training, something like the NOLA Timebank, and going to these meetings and mixers and events that you've been having, kind of helps to get you out of the house and get you out of your comfort zone, if you will, in a room with other people who can, share cultures and share experiences and help you and help you live a better life.
It's surprising because sometimes you have no idea what talents and skills and experiences someone has because we just don't ask. And this kind of brings up the topic, and you could be amazed at what your neighbors' special skills and assets they have.
I hope we get a little bit of time after we go to break. I hope we get a little bit of time after the break to talk a little bit about tribalism, which is a really powerful ism that I'm learning a little bit about. Most of the listeners here at WBOK are of African American descent, and so I'm really trying to learn more about my African spirituality and culture. And what I'm learning, and I'm hoping we can play this clip after the break, what I'm learning is even in Africa, they're experiencing this really difficult time of separatism through trying to preserve their tribal cultures and not really having tolerance for other cultures. And so, again, we're going to go to break here for a little bit. And when we come back, we're going to talk more with Gretchen Zalkind, and specifically about NOLA Timebanks and shared resources and moving our community forward. We'll be back. The Core Hour, sensible, sustainable solutions for our society and you.
WBOK 1230 AM, the People's Station.
And welcome back to the show, the Core Hour, sensible, sustainable solutions for our society and you. We're here with Gretchen Zalkind and the crew, talking about NOLA Timebanks, talking about social equity, talking about creating community and expanding our minds and doing things a little differently and hopefully being more efficient in the process. So right before the break, I was mentioning that I had seen a clip recently talking about tribalism over in Africa. And as I was listening, okay, and I'm going to play just a few minutes here because, time runs really fast on this show. So we're only going to play a few minutes here. When I think you got the gist, we'll break it off. And please call in as you're listening or right after the clip. Please call in. And I want to hear your comments, New Orleans, 504-260-9265. All right, let's play the clip.
To some, it's a source of richness, to others, the root of division. While some say it's the key to their identity, others say tribalism prevents Africans developing modern democracies. So should we suppress our distinct cultures in favor of nationhood? Or would this be a betrayal of our heritage?
Africans often claim Africa is both the cradle of humanity and home to the world's most ethnically diverse peoples. Among the best known of these are the Ashanti of Ghana, the Yoruba of Nigeria, the Shona of Zimbabwe, and the Zulu of South Africa, whose proud traditions predate the arrival of Europeans in the 15th century. In the West, these ancient kingdoms would be described as ethnic groups, but in Africa, to the irritation of many, they are often referred to as tribes. For years, analysts have been warning that ancient tribal loyalty is conflicting with modern national identity, especially with the advent of multi-party democracy. They say too many political parties compete not with ideas, but by appealing to regional and cultural identity, offering bribes and demonizing the opposition to gain votes. Experts like the Kenyan professor Calestus Juma have blamed such tension between the mainly Kikuyu-based KANU party and the Luo-dominated ODM for the appalling violence that claimed over 1,000 lives back in 2007. They also fear that Zimbabwe's forthcoming elections will again be marked by sectarian violence. But in Kenya's presidential elections and in the recent Ghanaian poll, candidates tried to appeal less to ethnic identity and more to national unity. So is this a trend African politicians should continue? Or do they risk denying distinct cultural traditions in favour of national identities that were drawn up by Europeans just over a century ago?
Hello, I'm Henry Bonso, and this is Africa Today. The former Kenyan...
All right. So I don't know about you, but as I was listening to that earlier today, I was thinking, what tribe am I a part of? Or how many tribes am I a part of? Because, you know, when we start to align ourselves with particular tribes, we are innately creating division and separatism and oftentimes classism and other things. And so it was just really interesting to me. And I always get in my head and start thinking, I listened to this a couple of times, and it's a longer clip, and I just posted it on Facebook. If anybody wants to watch the entire thing, post it on my Facebook page, and I will also forward it and share it on the Core USA Facebook page. But as I was listening, I was thinking about all the different tribes in New Orleans, and I wasn't just talking about the Zulu tribe or the the Black crew. Indian tribes or the Carnival crew. I was thinking about, in politics, Republicans versus Democrats versus the Green Party versus the Independent Party, all of these different tribes and so forth. Oh, we got a caller in. Okay, let's go to the line 3.
Thank you, brother and sister. How you doing today?
Very good, very good.
I'm gonna say in the early 70s, I used to read Muhammad Speaks newspaper, which was a very informative newspaper because they carried national, local, and international news a lot. And there was a dude over there in West Africa. His name was Jean Bedel Bokassa. And he wanted to be the emperor for life. He used to torture little kids for not wearing the proper school uniform. Okay? So you can get a good idea that larger ones try to dominate the smaller ones. But you remember killing Leopold, right? You know what he tried to do. They were using the Kalahari Bushmen and the Zulu tribe to suppress the ANC group while Brother Nelson was locked down.
Correct.
Yeah, they were using Kalahari Bushmen as track dogs when our people was trying to get to another group so they can organize. They would use them as track dogs, bro. And they were using the Zulus as the same thing. Now, y'all know who... what his name was when Ali had that fight in Zaire? What's that man with the president over there? Mobutu. He tried to Frenchianize our people over there. And now, so far as the tribalism, bro, look, we African Americans modernized the world. When we started the kings in English, became great inventors here, we changed the world, man. When Bessie Coleman flew the airplane, we changed the world. When George Washington Coleman took that peanut and did a mini wonder, we changed the whole world,
And
man.
the cotton gin.
Somehow people just don't get it. We created the English language, the music. When that brother sit on the stump of the Mississippi River and say, plank, blanka, blanka, blank, the white folks say, do it again, man. We changed the whole thing.
That's
Louis Armstrong, buddy, all of them, man.
So what do you...
It doesn't matter what tribe you came from. We all came from one big house called Africa. It doesn't matter anymore, little brother. Believe me. Believe me.
Well, there's
Malcolm, listen to this.
I'm
Malcolm
listening.
X's sister taught Arabic. That's a hell of a language to teach our kids, and she knew it. Spanish.
Absolutely.
And those who grew up in the Nation of Islam know how to read, write, and conversate with Arabic. I'm telling you, man, it doesn't matter what tribe we come from, little brother. It's all a ball of confusion. Now, look at ISIS. They're trying to destroy all the ancient relics so another generation can't see it and learn about it. You think there ain't no devils over there? And
Well,
let
me ask you this. Let me ask you this, caller. So, some people are still at the debate, though. They're saying, do we say that we're Americans and that we want to defend our Constitution and our country, or do we say that, we want to go back to Africa?
Well, if that's their choice, they want to go back to Africa, that's cool. We can bring Africa to them. We already did it.
Yeah.
We are African American, little brother, believe me. We need to use that term just for the moment. Until another 1,000 years, we can call, when we got true independence, then we can call ourselves by another name. But we're not going back to Negroes in color. That's out the picture, bro. Because Negro in color don't have no human values in it. It's just a word and a color.
Exactly.
See where I'm coming from? We are human beings who came from great people who did practically everything on this earth.
Absolutely.
Now listen to this. The whites in the 60s started when the Beatles went to that Maharishi thing, the Beatles. Then they went to Hare Krishna. Now they got white people want to be practice voodooism. What the deal is? Your Christianity is not good enough? They got truth in it.
Well, a lot of people are embracing these different cultures and religions, and they're accepting it as their own, and it makes an interesting question.
Listen, brother, believe me,
it makes a very
ain't
interesting question
with these people, like everything else. Just like I was telling these sisters about this gentrification this morning, it's a thing with them, bro. They're just trying to be boastful and mischievous, bro. Just to show they got superiority and money and power.
I have to say, though, I agree with you, but at the end of the day, you have to realize, too, that we're 500 years, some odd years off of that point to where we had pure mischievism and pure deceit and malevolence, and we're now at a point to where a lot of the people who are reverting from Christianity to voodoo or to Muslim or whatever the religion is, a lot of them are confused and they're simply trying to relate to what works in their life.
Confused, brother.
Right.
They're not taking enough time to study what they're supposed to study. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They are shortchanging themselves.
And that is absolutely the root issue, in my opinion, is cultural, spiritual tolerance and inclusiveness and understanding, which you cannot gain if you have no access to it and if you don't care to learn it and explore
Listen to this, brother. The very word education, the total molecular structure of education, African people, by the grace of God, is the author on earth of education. The very numbers you use now to keep this civilization and other civilizations going, 1 to 10, was invented by African people, man. This ain't no joke. I don't care who said. This is true. This is historical, actual fact. They couldn't have done nothing without this number system we got. We taught them how to measure with a ruler. You see them pyramids in that desert? It's a constant reminder of who did it and what it contributed to the world and help other people get up and get along.
Right. Absolutely. And I want to...
The food you eat called gumbo, red beans, lima beans, rice, we ate it in Africa, and we introduced it to other people around the world, particularly Europeans, bro.
Well, I'm glad...
They didn't know what a banana was at one time. They didn't know what a watermelon was at one time. They didn't know what an orange was. We introduced it to them way back when these African brothers and sisters who embraced Islam went into Spain and built 3 major universities over there.
Right.
Well,
you understand?
I'm glad you're bringing up. I'm glad you're bringing up several topics such as access and education. A big one is education.
It's not about being a Muslim, no. You know what the main thing is? It's about educating people and sharing it. But later down the road, they want to oppress you because they no longer want you to be their teacher. But when they get in trouble, they want you to get involved to solve their problem.
Right.
Well,
I'm leave you right there, brother, and I love you. Thanks for taking my call.
I really appreciate your call.
Yeah,
I really appreciate your call. And, for me, every time we have a conversation like this one, every time we have a conversation like this one, I'm always focused on one thing, and that is, what does this mean to the young people in our community? And how are they perceiving all of these things that are going on, the inequities, the way people are being treated? How are our young people looking at Trayvon Martin and that whole experience and looking at the way the society around them responds to these situations? And, honestly, there's very little time in what I've seen. There's very little time spent trying to get everyone in a place where they can discuss this in a way where they feel that all of their ideas are welcome. I'm a part of a process called the Welcome Table New Orleans, which is a initiative for racial reconciliation. I've talked about that a couple times. We're starting to develop our proposals, which I believe are going to be announced soon. We're going to do presentations sometime in June, letting the city of New Orleans know, what residents like myself and others think about moving this city forward in terms of racial reconciliation and embracing various cultures and so forth. And I think back to the way that I used to live, as a young boy. And I'm thinking way back to, and some of y'all callers can probably light up the phones thinking about these, but y'all remember Math Country? Do y'all remember 321 Contact? Anybody out there? I'm 38, so if you're in my age range, you probably remember some of the things. Okay, well, how about this one? Reading Rainbow.
Right.
Okay, all right. I knew I would get some people with that one, okay? So Reading Rainbow is another one. And those were the shows that influenced me. Now, there was also music, right? So I was also influenced by music. And I started, I can remember back to folks like Bobby Brown, right? That was our definition of bad boy back in those days, was folks like Bobby Brown running around talking about it's his prerogative and he can do what he wants to and nobody can tell him what to do and stuff like that. And so that was the bad boy until came along NWA.
Yeah, that was a revolutionary paradigm.
Now,
yeah.
They're about to do a documentary on NWA, what do they call it? Docudrama?
Yeah.
Okay. They're about to do a docudrama on NWA. And, I remember them. I remember Public Enemy.
Yeah.
And for a moment, I forgot how to dream because I thought that the music that I was listening to was right and that I was wrong. And that, those songs like 100 Miles and Running and things like that were basically telling me what my future was.
Right.
That I was going to end up like all the people on the videos getting shot or killed or thrown in jail or something like that. And it also, just as I'm trying to remember back when I was 13, like my son is now, I remember thinking to myself, my achievements are limited by a credit score, an SAT score, what college I get into, and what the scorecard is in my bank account.
Right.
And if your score is not high enough in your bank account, you ain't winning nothing.
Right.
I mean, that's the way I grew up. And so it's taken me this long. And so that was, I was a teenager 20 years ago. And so now I'm realizing that my potential as well as the potential of every single individual in the entire planet, on the entire planet, our potential is unlimited.
Correct.
It's infinite.
Yes. And when you have an organization like the Time Bank, you allow people to find ways to manifest
Thank you
that
for driving
potential.
That home.
Yeah.
Thank you for driving that home.
Ashlyn. That was great.
No, it was
brought that right back around. Thank you.
It's easy to do so. It's easy to do so though when you have the criteria, not the criteria is not the right word. The foundation laid, to do so, because it's
which includes access.
Right, exactly.
Can
That's
we just start with that?
That's
because not everyone has access to the same stuff, and I believe that's what the brother is trying to say, the caller is trying to say, and I believe that a lot of other people feel that same way. I got two young people who are in jail right now. I hired them before they were incarcerated, and, when work ran out, they ran out and did what they did, and now they're in jail, and so I'm going to at least one is going up for parole within the next month or so, and I'm going to go and meet with that person and talk to him, and I'm going to be there also at the parole hearing, offering my support. But the access that the little bit of access to a fair shot in our society that he had is almost extinguished by our society standards after he's been incarcerated.
Correct.
And so whatever got him to the point where he decided to do what he did to put him where he is now,
he's stuck there.
Or at least that's what he's being taught right now.
Right.
By our society is that you've done wrong, and so now you're stuck with what you did for the rest of your life. And he's only 21 years old.
Right, and that's a shame.
Tragic.
Yeah.
That's really tragic.
So we want to turn this around, and we want to create opportunities. And a lot of you all know that we're doing this Core Explorers program over the summertime. And what I'm hoping is that, these young people who get involved with the Core Explorers program are going to sit down with this time bank.
We'd love that.
Okay. We're going to sit down with this time bank, and we're going to reach out to the people in our community, not just in the Carrollton area, y'all, not just in Pigeon Town, but all throughout the city of New Orleans. And we're going to look for opportunities to help folks like you, our listeners, and folks who y'all know and businesses who y'all know. We want to volunteer time. We want our young people to get some experience volunteering their time out helping you guys. And we're going to use the NOLA Timebank as a tool for helping us to organize those things. And so if y'all get a chance to take a look at the NOLA Timebank, okay, you have a website.
Yep, it's NOLATimebank.org, NOLATIMEBANK.org.
And you're also having an event coming up in, another week or two? Is that right?
Yeah, next week we have the evacueer training, which is going to be at the Ibris Conservation Room on Willow and Leonidas. We're really looking forward to that next Tuesday. We also have we do a community repair shop where just everybody brings tools, or we bring sewing machines. If you have something that's broken, it's just kind of sustainability, fix what you got. You don't need to buy something new. And we just draw on the talents of the people in the community. And we do that at the Keller Library Community Center. That's coming up on June 8th. But
That's excellent.
Yeah, you go to the website, you can see the upcoming events. And as Tillman was talking about getting these young people involved, the Time Bank's a great place to meet a mentor, for people to get involved because they want to help teach young people in the city. I mean, share the knowledge that people have.
You got some really some people in your circle there, the meetings that I go to, some of those people have incredible amount of knowledge. Thanks. And so, we do want to see young people as well as our listeners, start coming to these events and learning how you can get involved with the organization NOLA Timebank. You also have a Facebook page.
We do.
Right? And so
NOLA Timebank.
NOLA Timebank is also on Facebook. Do you have Twitter and all that stuff too?
Oh, my goodness. Actually, if you're good at Twitter, you can earn some time credit coming to the Time Bank. There's opportunities everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I really appreciate you being here on the show, Gretchen.
Thank you so much, Tillman.
And we'd love to have you back here pretty soon just to continue this dialogue about how we can have more of these mutual aid networks.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. That was great. I really appreciate being here.
Thank you for being here. And the last thought of the day from Mama B, y'all. She sent me a text message and said, don't wear your heart on your sleeve if you don't want to get hurt. So think about that, and we'll see you next time. Until then, take great care of yourself and your family. The Core Hour, sensible, sustainable solutions for our society and you.